Hi everyone, Annette from Aussie Reborn Supplies and Miracle Babies Newborn Nursery here. Today I'm going to start my process of my Luminaire Air Dry Paints and show everyone how easy they are to use and how to paint your own baby. So as you know, in previous episodes you may have seen, I did one episode which was on how to wash a baby, that you can see up here, and that's the starting process of how you will start your painting process of your baby. So first the wash, and next was the vinyl prep. So just click on the link and you will see how I went about doing my vinyl prep of little baby Danny here. Okay, and so today we're actually going to start the painting process. So I thought first I would talk to you about the Luminaire paints. They're really great. What I'm going to be using in my tutorial is the master set. So the master set is fantastic. I highly recommend it. It's just the ultimate. Okay, and it's the ultimate starter. You just buy the master set and you really only have to buy the vinyl prep and away you go. So anyway, with the master set, I'll run through what you get. So you'll get a shine reduction sealer. Now this is one of the last processes we will do. It's a sealer, but it also reduces the shine on a kit if you've got it. I also have the spray sealer, which I highly recommend, but this is the one you get in the master set. You'll get the lip and nail gloss. So if you've been using heat set paints, you'll know, like the air dry gloss. That's pretty much what this one is. You'll get vein blue. So I'll open every one and show you. So it's a nice bright blue. You get a pink color corrector, which is a green color, but I'll explain that very soon. And you get a purple wash. Beautiful lavender color. You get a blushing cheek color, a berry blush tone, an Asian flesh tone, a medium flesh, dark flesh, light flesh, nail white, lip and nail berry, Mars black, burnt umber, blonde, and a dimensional eyebrow gel. So obviously, as we go along in this whole process, I'll explain all the colours to you. You could obviously know that these little four set here were for the eyebrows and lips and nails and so on and so forth. So anyway, we'll get started a little bit. All air dry paints are used mixed with water. So unlike your Genesis heat set paints or any heat set paints where we use the odorless solvent, we're just using water. So you can use bottled water, you can use distilled water, you can even use tap water. I prefer not to use tap water only because what is in, like I'm in Australia, what is in our water might be different to what is in other people's waters all over the world. Like we put fluoride in our water here and things like that. So I don't know if that is going to work. So I think it's just best to get the bottled spring water and go from there. I feel safe with that. So one of the first processes is if your kit is too orange. My kit isn't. It's a nice flesh tone, a nice pink. I'm happy with it. But if you have a look at your kit and you're feeling it's a little bit too orange and you want to color correct that, that's where the pink color corrector it will come in. So as you can see, it's a green color, a minty green color, and so you will thin that with the water, as I will show you in techniques ahead, but you will thin it with water. So the best way to work out whether your paint is correct to start putting on the kit is, say, just get your bottled water and paint onto it. So if you paint on if you mix your water and your green or pink color corrector, and you paint a brush onto the bottle, it should be translucent, so you should be able to see through it. So if you can't really see through it, then it's too much. So what you want to do is just be able to paint it onto your bottle and be able to see it's a translucent. So it's just going to be a light look. It's almost like when you look at your wrists and you can see through to your veins. That means your skin over the top there is a translucent, very fine tone. So that's what you want to do. And if you do that, you'll be away. It's all perfectly fine. Okay, so I'm happy with my kit, so I don't need to do that pink color corrector, so I'm just going to go directly on to the next step, which is veins. They start the veins first. So I'll put all my little paints aside here because I'm not going to use them on today's paint. So I'm just going to use my blue vein tone. So first I'm going to get a little bit of water and put it in there. Just a little bit, and then I've got my brush, and I'm going to have to go get my vein brush because that's very important when doing veins. So I'm going to stop it and just restart in 1 second. Okay, so I have my vein brush, which is just a very fine script liner type brush. So I've got my water, as we know, as well. Now I don't want to have too much water, so I'm going to pour some in there, in my lid. Oops. Because as we know, with veins you're not going to use much at all, so I'm going to stick it to that. So I've actually only got in there a minute amount of water. You can just see it in the bottom there. It's probably about a lid's worth, so I'm going to stick it to that at the moment. So obviously we've got our vein blue, I've showed you before. It's nice and a bright blue. So I'm just going to get some out of the lid here. Just a tiny bit on the end of my brush there. And I'm going to mix it in. Now the best bit, you can see that there. The best bit is starting with a little bit of water. I might actually get rid of a little bit more actually, but we can add to it. So let's just say use even half a lid full to start with, and add to it as you please. So the best bit, as I was saying, is just having a little bit of water. We can add to it and add to it. If we want to add more water, we can. If we want to add more paint, we can. Now you can just see that's just very light there. I don't think it's to the right consistency yet. But the best thing to do is just, you've got your paper towel, and just do a fine line on your paper towel. I'll bring one over here so I can do it as well. Shame my actual paper towel has blue lines through it. That might not work properly. But anyway, I'll just get some more paint there. Mix it in. And I'll just do a little line. So you can see that there. It's just a fine line. So I'm going to try it on the kit and see what I think. There's no harm in trying. We can just pounce it out. So I'm just going to get my paintbrush all paint up and just do a little cross line on the forehead. Now you probably won't see that because I can't see that. So you know what that means? Let's add more paint. Try to be a little bit more generous this time, I think, because it's just not getting dark. So of course we still want it to be translucent, but we want to be able to see it a little bit. If you've ever watched one of my tutorials on veining before, using the Genesis Heat Scent paints, I go over and over and over it again. So that's what we will do. So I think that consistency, as you can see the blue colour there, I think that's what I'm going to stick with at the moment. So I'll just get my kit and I'm going to do the little cross at the front, like a river. And I'm just going to keep going over and over that. Very fine. You can have your cosmetic wedge with you and just pounce over. I think I'm going to add a little bit more blue. I'm just not happy with this one yet. It's the beauty of it when you're starting with just a little bit. You can add it. Even like everyone has a personal preference too. Some people actually like very dark veins, and that's okay if that's what you like, and also what your customer likes. That's very important. But you can add to it. You can make it the way you want it. So I'm just mixing that in. Okay, see how we go. That blue is quite a nice blue. I can actually see it when I mix it up here. I can see it remains there a little bit. So that might be what I need. Okay. So trying again. My little river vein. Just on the forehead there, ever so fine. So my best advice is, with the veins to start with, is to get the consistency that you're happy with. You can see that vein just there on the side, the temple. So get your vein colour to the consistency you like. I like that. I'm gonna do it is I can see it on the kit. I can just barely see it. So what I'm going to do is just keep going over that. You can just see it just there until I'm completely happy with it. As I go, I'm going to be getting my sponge and just dabbing over it. Perfect. It's sitting there, which is really good. Just dab over it, and then once I do each one, just put it on my kit, my drying set, which I've got for them. So then they will dry for 20 minutes before I can go on to the next coat. Personally, I have a lot to do, so I'll be doing my next layer tomorrow. But generally, you can just let it dry for 20 minutes. Okay, so I'll leave it with you with that. The next one we're going to be doing is we're going to do a berry blush tone. So that'll be the next layer. So get ready with your berry blush tone. Okay, see you soon. Okay, so how did you go with your veins? I'll show you mine. As you can see, just in the center of the forehead there, I've just got a very light blue vein, and there's one here and one here, and then of course on the limbs. So mine turned out okay. I just wanted a very faint light blue veining. You might choose that you like your veins to look a bit darker. I didn't add any extra to my vein mix yesterday, but if you wanted to, like I said, there's no right or wrong way. Obviously, if the veins were too dark, then that would show through, since every layer is translucent. But I think you could add a little bit more if you wanted it to be a little bit darker. But that's just the look that I wanted to get out of Danny's veins. Okay, so now we've got to start. The next layer is a berry blush tone. So that's what I've got here, the Berry Blushtone. And as you can see, it's like a maroony sort of plum light pastel color. So what I'm going to do, because Little Danny's only a small kit, I'm not going to go like making big quantities. So I'm just going to use a cap full of water and see how we go with this. Normally I make bigger quantities, like I'm doing 4 or so at once. So I don't want to make too big of a mixture. So that's just 1 capful, and we'll see how we go. So I've just got this type of brush, the flat-ended brush, and what I'm going to do is just dip a little bit into the mixture and mix it in with my water. So you can see that coming there. Mix it well so any little flaky bits that are floating around are all mixed into place. So I think I need to add a bit more to that, but I'll just show you. Of course you can see there that's not very, you can't see anything at all really, it's just the tiniest little bit. So I'm going to get some more, about the same amount that I did before. Mix it in, that's looking a bit better. You can see that colour there, it's like a rose pink actually. A nice rose pink. Let's see if this one comes out on our paper. You can see that a little bit better there. So once again, you could do the bottle test, and that is just where you paint across the bottle. And what you want to be able to see it is translucent. It's hard to tell there, but you can see them there. So I am going to add the tiniest bit more of paint. About the same actually. It's all trial and error. Of course we don't like many errors, but if like in this instant I find that the paint is too dark, all I need to do is add a little bit more water and I fixed it. So it's not really that I can make a big mistake or anything. You can see that one up the top there, it's just a little bit more pink. It's, for me, it's the perfect shade of pink that I need. I just want to be just touching, just so it's a touch on the kit. It's nothing major. So anyway, what I'm going to do here is this is the sponge I used yesterday when I did the veins, and because I want to get my skin tone to have a tone to it, like a consistency, I'm going to rip off the end of my sponge, and this gives a dotty sort of mottly type of effect, skin effect, and that's what I'm going to do first. Now, the best thing to do before you put paint onto this is we need to soak it a little bit. So I'm just going to paint over it a little bit to give it that soaked, so there's no dry parts there. Okay, just close my lid of my paint and basically get your kit and pounce all over with the cosmetic wedge. These cosmetic wedges and the air dry paint really like a lot of moisture on it. So what I'm going to actually do is paint this one on. paint it directly on. Air dry paints obviously are different to the heat set paints. The heat set paint seems to directly from a cosmetic wedge, it seems to directly go onto the kit. When I do find that when you're working with the air dry paints, it tends to not want to go directly on, it tends to want to be painted on, and then you pounce it out with the cosmetic wedge. An interesting consistency actually. So as you can see, there's paint going on there. It's working great. Just all over the kit, all over, like I'm doing the face obviously at the moment, so all over the face, in the mouth, in the nostrils, in the creases and everything. And then once I have finished, you can either get yourself like a mop brush or use your cosmetic wedge and just pounce over those areas. Okay, so once I've completed that, I'll just put it on my stand to dry, and then I'll do the limbs, and then I will, once they're all painted, I'll just put them all on my drying rack and leave them for 20 minutes before I can do the next layer. Okay, so see you for the next layer. Okay, so how did you go on your berry blush tone? Mine went pretty good. I'm quite happy with it. Just to let you know, you won't see much of a difference at this time. You should be able to see just the slightest difference. Between here and here, there is a very slight difference, and that's how you want it to be. So now we'll start on the next one, which is our first layer of flesh. So when I was doing my last one, you saw that I painted the berry blush tone on, and I actually let it sit for a minute, and then I did another layer with the sponge. So I found that gave it that little bit of detailing that we like in a baby's skin. And I did let it sit for 20 minutes, and then I did another layer just because I wasn't quite happy with the application of the first one. It seemed a little bit beady, but I found that if you pursue it, then it takes it and it's fine. Some of the kits don't really like air dry paints as much, and that's why we use the vinyl prep. You'll discover over time of using different kits that some take it better, but the vinyl prep is very important. And once again, if you're having any problems, you need to think about when you used your vinyl prep, how you used it. It needs to be put on like you might have seen in the other videos, and you need to rub it in. You need to really rub it in so it's not like a layer of vinyl prep over the top. It needs to be nicely rubbed in, and if that's fine, you haven't got not too much on it, it should be fine. If you're still finding that the paint is not taking, you can do a layer of matte sealer, that helps, or you can even mix a little bit of matte sealer into your paint, and that helps it to take too. But it should be fine now. So if you did have any problems, just go back and do that. Even you can go back and do your veining again if you felt like the first time that didn't come through. Mine didn't have a problem. As you can see, the vein in the forehead there, still there, no worries. So let's anyway start on the flesh layer. Just to go back on what we've just speaking about, if you have any questions, please ask me below. I haven't been doing air dry paints for a long time, but I do know some details, and if I can't help you, I have someone higher up who assists me, actually people from Luminaire Air Dry Paints. I can ask them any questions anytime, and they get back to me rather quickly, and I can get back to you as well. So don't be frightened to ask, and don't put it aside thinking you can't do it, because everyone can. Okay, so once again, I'm going to do a capful because he he's not that big. He's not that big a kit. So just a capful in my little bowl. I broke my other one. It dropped on the ground. It's terrible. So I had to start a new one. It's terrible when you find that you actually love something so much. I think I'd had it for about 6 years or something, so I'm devastated. Okay, so we're going to start with the first layer of flesh. Now, if you have Luminaire Air Dry Paints, you should have the instructions beside you because it comes with the master set. But if you don't, that's okay too. You might be using a different air dry set of paints. You might be able to do the same processes. Okay, so I've got here light flesh and medium flesh, and they're the ones we're going to use. So I'm just going to take a brush of a one-side brush of my light flesh. Okay, so just like that. And I'm going to mix that into my water. It's going to be hard for you to see this one because it's so pale. But I will make sure you do get to see it. Okay, then I'm going to get my medium flesh and I'm going to get the same amount. So just to show you the light flesh again, that's like it's like a creamy color. And then if we go to the medium flesh, it's more of like a pinky tinge, apricot kind of color. Mix that in. Very exciting. Everything's going really well, going to plan, and I'm happy with how Danny is in his first few layers. So you might, oh, I hope I don't, no, I didn't spill any on myself. You might be able to just see that. Now once again, get your paper. Well, I just painted it on and it was a little bit not totally mixed. So I'll keep mixing that for a minute. Like I said, this is a new little dish, so I'm not as used to it as the other one. I could see the bottom better in the other one. Okay, so let's give this a whirl. I'm not happy with that. To me, I can't see it. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do a brush of the light. And then I'm going to do a brush of the medium. This is the beauty of these paints, you know. You can make it to the way you like it. I mean, you know best. You're sitting in front of it. You can see the paint. You can tell if it's too much, if it's too little, and like I've been doing the other ones, you can always do the bottle test. The bottle test is the best. So if I was to do that, once again, you just paint across, and if you can see through it, let's just hear the paint, then that's good, and that actually looks pretty good, but I'm still going to do my paper test. I like my paper test. And I can see a light, it's up at the top there, I can see a light flesh tone there, so I'm just going to see if I think that that's good enough. I think it is. Well, I'm looking at it in the bowl, I don't know if you can see it there as I whiz it up. It's just like a milky consistency with a light fawn colour. So I'm going to see how I go with that. I'm going to use my wedge again, so I'm going to rip off the top just to get that grainy feeling so I can get it to the skin. I'll put these lids back on. Okay, come here Mr. Danny. So here we are, here's Danny again. So it's best, like I said yesterday, to make sure your cosmetic wedge is nice and wet, and then we just pounce it on. And sometimes if you don't like pouncing on, I'm a bit of both actually, you can brush on, Brushing on I like a little better because you can see it going on. And then I like to come along with my cosmetic wedge and pounce on. Because as you can imagine, we're working with a water product here, so this sponge soaks up the water and it's not as direct in getting onto the kit. Oh, I don't think so. So I like to go along, and then I like to start on the next limb, so the arm, and then I like to come back with my cosmetic wedge and pounce out any excess paint, and then over the whole thing as well, because then it gives that grainy look like I keep talking about. So if you're working with me, you should be able to see, all you will see is a shine from my end, and I can only really see a shine. It's normally, I find, once the kit dries and I compare it with the base, that I can really see the change. I normally work with Genesis heat set paints, so I like a lot of detail on my babies. So I find, you know, obviously the instructions that Luminaire gave are amazing, but you don't have to stop just there. You can add to it, and that's what I love. Like if I let this dry for 20 minutes and I've got a little bit of paint left, I think, why not? And I'm going to add it to it. I'm going to go another layer. And you can too. So as you can see with the cosmetic wedge, I'm just lightly pouncing over it, ever so lightly, and just giving it that grainy look. I can see it myself already coming up. And at the same time, I'm pouncing any excess paints out, especially in the creases. We don't want the paint to pool in the creases, so you can either come along with your cosmetic wedge and just pounce out, or you can get a dry brush and pounce it out in those little creases as well, so we don't get a build up. So he's looking pretty good. I'm happy. Happy with Danny for sure. I can definitely see a color change in that base happening. Okay, so I'm going to go do my limbs, you go do your limbs, and then we'll come back for a second different color flesh tone. Don't forget, if you want to keep using the flesh tone you've got now, do another layer by all means. Okay.